Everybody ready? Okay. Calling to order the committee of the whole meeting for Diamond Lake School District 76. Roll call, please.
Ms. Angelola, here. Ms. Bayless, here. Mr. Becker, Ms. Hale,
Here.
Mr. Houtman,
Here.
Mr. Candela,
Here.
Ms. Sullivan.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We now open the floor for public comments on agenda items. Do we have any public comments this evening? There being no public comments, we move on to presentations.
All right, we have one presentation this evening, and that is from Dr. Cunningham, who's going to give us an update on the summer learning program. So I'm going to turn the floor over to him. Dr. Cunningham.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the summer learning presentation. So this summer we had one session that we decided to compact because we've noticed in the past our attendance in July becomes a bit problematic. And so we hypothesized that we could move to a 5-day week and still go 4 weeks and get our 20 days in for our general education summer school, our ESY program. We split into 2 sessions. It was kind of a theory we wanted to test with students being able to kind of be school ready coming back, as well as kind of living through the year. The difference is ESY did not meet on Fridays. That was really the biggest change to it. Our program delivery model has been in person. We've been going half days, 8 to 11:30 a.m. And like I mentioned, ESY was during the same time. We split it over the Diamond Lake and West Oak campuses. We broke it into 4 sections, which was social emotional learning, reading, math, and dual language. And then the extended school year of ESY is always focused on meeting our students' IEP goals that are there. As we also offer summer band, which was June 20th and 29th, the same days and times as summer learning. And we ended with an in-person concert at WMS, which is a huge highlight. We do it, and Ms. Rosales does a great job bringing in former students and guest conductors. So just to give you an idea of a visual of what the program might look like, you can see the breakdown in the number of minutes a day. Essentially, it's 60 minutes for math, 60 minutes for reading, 30 minutes for intervention. That was typically Imagine Learning, which is a program we purchased during the pandemic, and then SEL for another 30 minutes afterwards. The difference for the dual students is that time in math was split, and some of that was SLA as well, to kind of go through. So to kind of go talk about attendance, as we tried this model, we had 70 students attend general education, 64 in dual language. Our attendance hovered around 70%. And then ESY session 1, we had 46 students, and you can see a dramatic change in ESY session 2, which had 36, which is correlated with the fact that the Park District was not offering after school care for the August session. The most interesting thing to talk about that I'll go over with the board in a moment is really the results and talking about moving forward. So overall, most of our students remained in their current tiers from spring to fall. So we've just tested the STAR test again this fall. And we also tested it during the last week of summer school for our gen ed students, our extended school year students, or ESY IEP students. We did not give that STAR test to because they were monitoring different goals. So what that means is our students, if they were tier 1 student, their 30th percentile or above on STAR, they remained there. If they were tier 2, they remained there. If they were tier 3, they remained there. When you look at growth, you see that from spring to summer, so in 4 weeks, 62% of our students grew in the 4 weeks of instruction on STAR from spring to summer. And then from spring to fall, 47% of our students grew. And then in math, 52% of our students grew from spring to summer. That would be 36% going from spring to fall. So what I want to highlight here as well is we don't have the numbers yet for spring to fall for all of our students, but to give you a comparison to last summer's data, our spring to fall percentage of growth in reading for all students, so this is students that came to summer school and didn't last summer, was 50%. So we were at 47%, which for summer school, one kid is 3 to 5%. So it's parity. And then spring to fall from math was 43%, and we were at 36%. So a little bit of what this tells us as we kind of think about this more on the last slide here is our students in general, whether they went to summer school or didn't, performed about the same academically. And that's part of the reality we want to talk about a little bit. Before I get into that, I'll walk through just a couple of things that we're doing. So the fall scores, the comparison I just did from last fall, spring to fall scores, we'll do for this spring to fall just to check our discrepancy. I have a feeling what I shared what happened last spring to fall will be about the same for this year. We will do a continue start stop for the summer learning program going forward, because I guess I'll cite a study that just came out of Harvard and NWA. They studied 8 major districts where there's a big push toward pandemic learning loss, and a lot of districts across the country have said, we really need to focus on using summer school to fill in those gaps and support students. And so the overwhelming results have been that there's been minuscule gains at best in math and no gains in reading for students that attended summer school. The rationale being, well, the hypothesis being that it's too short and it's also not appealing. So you can see for us, we had not a lot. If I was to go back to that slide a second, I think I can go back. You know, we had that's 134 families out of our students out of 860. We have more slots to offer. Families are not necessarily interested. We are also only doing a half-day model, which that is the most common model by far. They cited one school district that had probably the best attendance they saw in Tennessee. That school district was offering summer school from 8:30 to 5:30 p.m. so they could double it as childcare, but they ran out of money and canceled summer school halfway through the summer, to give you an idea of a little bit what they're working with. So the study does not necessarily, the question now districts are asking themselves looking at this, which is where we are right now, is how do we best leverage our funding support our students with learning loss, and also what type of things would be appealing for our students to be involved with in the summer. We've partnered with the high school in the past for STEM offerings, what are things that would encourage, get kids involved, they'd be excited about doing. There are intangibles that are benefits to summer school that may not come out in STAR reading or math, but they can come out in some of the social emotional learning pieces, being connected and socializing into the next grade in school, ESY goals, they're working on meeting those and being school ready. There can be college and career pathways. There's lots of things we can do, but this is an important moment for us to really reflect on, well, we're looking at this data, which is completely in line with what we're seeing nationally, that we don't necessarily see there isn't a real difference between those who came to summer school and who didn't versus what they retain going into the fall, just based on academics. So what we're doing is we want to survey our stakeholders for program design, relevance, and attractiveness, and that we'll have to think through some of that. We need to continue start stop. Stakeholders, including the board. So we'd love to get feedback in a moment as we begin to think about that. And we will review our data, like some of this data we just shared, and plan to really level up our summer plans and offerings, because this is a great opportunity to do so and research best practices. I gave you just a couple pieces just in the research I was doing in the last week based on looking at our data and what we are seeing. And I'm presenting this data the way that we presented that whole 100% of students will grow. That's the way I'm presenting the data this year. So we can see that, so it's consistent with how we've done it. So with that, it's an interesting time and spot to talk about summer school and reflect. It's an interesting conversation. So any thoughts, feedback, or things that we should think about from the board would be welcome.
I have some questions. For the gen ed and the dual language students, are those students invited to summer school? I know in the past, some of the summer school programs, that's how we did things. I wasn't sure if that's what was happening this year.
They were invited, yes. We generated the list, at least for gen ed, from tier 2 and 3, and I'm not 100% positive how it all went down in practicality.
Okay.
In terms of how many people we continue to offer to for open spots. Unfortunately, I can't speak to that, but we did. It was offered. We did not have, from our interest survey we had from families as well, it was very low.
Sure.
There was not a lot of interest in sending their kids to in-person summer. There just wasn't.
Oh, no, I understand. And I think that that's been kind of the trend. But my follow-up question then is, for the students that were invited, but that didn't attend summer school, how did they perform on the STAR test? Because the percentage you're giving us, or the percentage I think that you just gave us, essentially encompasses the whole, the district as a whole.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that smaller group of students who might have been targeted for needing extra help. So I'm just wondering, do their scores differ there?
If they different compared to other tier two, basically what I'll do is we'll run tier 2 and 3
Yeah,
and we'll look at how they did comparatively. So I guess if I can talk about it before the next board meeting, I can probably email the board and get that information.
that would be great, because I think
Yeah, that's a
that
great question.
frequently, I mean, every summer we struggle to get the kids engaged, to get the kids wanting to come to be here. You know, I feel like the staff has really kind of bent over backwards trying to figure out creative ways to engage people. It's always kind of like a juggling game with after school care and understanding that our families need additional care, but a full day of school is not what anyone necessarily wants. So I get that. I'm just wondering if, depending on what changes you make, are we still seeing that this actually is important to keep them from backsliding?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I won't speculate until we've seen this year's data. So
Thank you.
absolutely.
Mrs. Hale basically asked, because I was thinking about the, just those students that are our most sort of academically fragile, that loss of that 8 weeks would backslide them. And she mentioned that. So that was sort of what my question was just the, she basically asked it.
No,
So-
well, it's a great point because I know some of the researchers recommended there's 2 ways you can go. You can do the summer camp, we're going to sell it, it's exciting, or you can be blunt with families and say, your student's behind, we need to do this. And there's pros and cons to both. And so if we're able to demonstrate, if we look at that data and say this fall's data is indicating this, we can think about that as how we would message that in the most supportive way.
I actually saw this when I got the agenda. I was really proud of this because another district I know, we always deal with the summer slide where we do map testing and the map scores are always lower in the fall. I thought this was really great to see so many kids like kind of holding their own, even if it's like maintaining where they left off, they didn't slide backwards as they, from my experience, always happens. So I actually looked at this and I was really excited and proud that the district did such an outreach to so many kids, kept their math and reading scores stable. I'm sure there's a couple here and there that slid, but maybe their slide would have been even bigger, steeper if they hadn't gone. So I was actually really excited about this. So
That's a great point. I wrote down Dave said we did an awesome job. So no, that's good. That's a great way of, it makes me feel better.
One of the programs that we've kind of kept in place and it's not changed over the years, and obviously because of the pandemic, we offered it, we kind of did some different things, but I think it's a good time. And Dr. Cunningham brings up a good point of just stopping, reflecting, doing a little bit more surveying, asking staff, even asking parents. One of the things we heard today in a presentation is why there seems to be a lack of engagement is because it's not as fun. Learning is not as fun. So can we make this, couple it with fun as well as reteaching and reviewing of the skills? And I think we have to look at a redesign of the program.
another thought I had was lunch provided.
They take a bag lunch home.
Yeah.
Or they take it back? Okay. Because I was thinking that maybe you could encourage more participation if lunch was provided. and it
Breakfast,
stayed-
snacks and lunch.
Breakfast, snacks, and lunch. Thank you.
We did partner with the Park District this year. So there was kind of a joint childcare piece, which helped to some degree as well.
in just hearing what you were talking about, I was curious to know if there'd been any discussion about like a co-op with other districts in the area that also provide or have a summer school program, just to maybe have different options as far as what more students might be engaged in, whether it be music or needing more remediation or help academically, or to just sort of have it be multi-district to sort of share the burden and in a way, and to share the space and ideas and what different districts can provide. was just curious if that's something that had been discussed.
Yeah, I know we've partnered in the past with Mundelein High School and they will pull the feeders and I think that was a really powerful program. What'll be interesting is there any way we can highlight transportation with that? I think I can't remember, but I feel like I remember it being kids had to transport themselves. I think that's what it was. So that can be a hindrance potentially, but I know Anthony Kroll's really trying hard to push career and technical education at Mundelein High School, and he's usually trying to have some of our teachers help run it. So there is an opportunity there. Okay. Thank you.
That concludes our presentations for this evening.
Great. We will now move on to our business agenda. Do one item for action and 2 items for review. The omnibus vote agenda is up for review tonight. Moving on to our item for action, which is personnel. Be it resolved, the Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the personnel items as depicted on the agenda. We have 2 new hires. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
Mr. Campbell. Mr. Becker. Yes. Ms. Angelova. Yes. Ms. Bailiff. Yes. Ms. Hale.
Yes.
Mr. Houtman. Yes. Ms. Sullivan. Yes.
That motion is approved. The next item up for review is the press policies, the first reading of them. So we will vote on them at our next meeting. Most of these, it seems like, came about because they did a 5-year review of the policies and they're pretty minor changes. So if anyone wants additional discussion, we can definitely do that before we vote at the next board meeting, unless anyone has anything they'd like to discuss right now. I don't think so. Okay. Okay, that concludes the business agenda. Moving on to board discussion. I don't think we have any items.
It was just
Oh,
that
there was.
one, that-
Oh,
the
yes,
one
yes,
that I
yes.
added. And so I just received this email last night and I included it. This was the update that Hiram shared with you in a memo, but if there's anything, we have a board member from Fremont that is been asked to represent this area and go to Washington DC at the Federal Advocacy Conference from September 25th to the 27th, which is 2 weeks from now. So if there anything, he's basically asking, if there's anything that our board would like him to bring up on this area's behalf or on our behalf, please let me know. And if there's something that you want to think about and share with me, that's fine. I'm happy to just kind of draft a letter. So my response was going to be after tonight was the board discuss it. Here's what we're thinking, or thank you, and we'll get back to you. So I just wanted to bring that up to your attention if there's anything we want to discuss right now or at a later time. But our board meeting, our next board meeting is the 26th and his conference or meetings the 25th.
Maybe we'll think about that. And if anyone has anything, we'll follow up with you.
Yes, perfect. If you could get back to me maybe by next week, then I can send him a response.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
That's all we have for discussion.
Okay, then, freedom of information requests, we had 1. And that was responded to. Notices and communications, there's a whole bunch from CEDAW. I don't know if anyone had any comment or question on those. And then we have D76 highlights. I really like the table at Mono.
I know, we won.
Table, that's nice and fancy.
Yeah.
Sammy and Josh look great.
We won the best decorated table, the most spirits. Sparkle's got a big shout out. He's becoming a legend. We have our first Diamond Edge, which includes all of our new staff. Our August moment of the month. Again, Sparkles. He's like the superintendent, or she, depends on who it is. It's like,
Oh, you gonna wear that costume?
They think it's me when they don't see me.
Mm.
They think it's me. And
I would
they're-
love to see Bobna put that on.
They're like, were you Sparkles today? I'm like,
You're like, absolutely not.
no. Yeah, no.
I was just assumed it was Erica.
It was me a couple.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. But then when I was wearing it and Josh and Lupe, they kept looking, they're like, well, who's that?
Mhm.
You can guess.
Yep. And the last one, why Mr. Rogers is not here today, he welcomed a baby boy on Saturday. And as you can tell from his little tie-dye outfit, he is a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
So cute.
So those are our highlights for the past few weeks.
Fantastic. We now open the floor for public comments on petitions on non-agenda items. Do we have any public comments or petitions on non-agenda items? Okay, we do not. Moving on to others. I was just gonna say, I personally had forgotten to register for Triple I until today. I had like a panic realization that I'd never sent Hiram a note. So if anyone else is in that same boat and would like to register, please send Hiram a note. And he will get you hooked up. And that is all I have. Does anyone else have any others? I think also, is anyone going to the division meeting? Are you going, Nikki? I think it's in October, but I'm not sure.
Sure what date it is? I saw it.
That's my point. What is it?
Yeah. Mm-mm. I don't know if we hear back. Hold on. It is Wednesday, October 11th at 6 p.m. And it's at the North Chicago Neal Math and Science Academy in North Chicago. So just a thought, if anyone wants to go. And Nikki doesn't want to go alone, then we can try to get a contingent to go.
No, no.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that wraps everything up except executive session. So we will now move to executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. May I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? Yes. Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.